Hi everybody, this is a photo from last night's workshop at Brimham Rocks, and this is a famous tree which grows out of seemingly just a piece of rock. We weren't blessed with the best light, as you can see, pretty flat. So what I'm going to do in this tutorial is just see what we can get out of it really. So for me it looks like a black and white, and it looks like an underexposed dramatic sort of film noir look. So first off, I think I'm going to get rid of these bits in the corner up here, simply because I don't think it does seem a bit weird there. So I'm going to just crop in a little bit, not far. And also, if you note on the crisscross of the third line here, it's kind of nicely catching where this tree goes from being diagonal to vertical. Maybe just there. Let's use that as a crop. So we've got this big open area now. Right, so let's have a look. If we pull the exposure down quite a bit, put the clarity up, and then drag the whites up, see what happens. We get a bit more interest in the sky. If we bring the highlights down a little bit and the whites up, we get a really dramatic sort of sky. It also seems to be pulling out quite a bit of dust. You can see these dots here, that's just dust on my sensor, which I will have to remove. I tend to remove dust in Photoshop these days, it's just a bit easier. Anyway, well, that's how you get rid of it. You just use this dust tool here and just click on a piece of dust, and Lightroom will find a similar bit of the picture nearby and just copy it over. And then use the heel. I say heel, it's as in fix rather than back of your foot. Okay, so that's that cleaned up a little bit. So let's zoom back out. So just by reducing the exposure up in the whites and playing with the highlights, we've got a very dramatic looking sky from what seemed to be a little bit dodgy. Now what's worth doing is zooming in and just seeing what happens on these dark and light interfaces. Ooh, didn't mean to do that. Let's put the white back at where it was. It's got this little halo effect going on here, which is what the clarity does. So if we take the clarity down, that sort of disappears. Now what you can do to get rid of that is, if I get the brush tool, which is this thing here, go to clarity and go to maybe -50 or 60 and just draw around the edge. It sort of fixes it, although it can leave it a little bit dirty, as you can see there. So do a fairly big brush, and where it says feather, have it quite high, and then just draw around the edge like that. And with a little look, you'll get away with no halos, and it won't affect the sky too much. So just draw, so you can just draw around the whole of the edge like that. I mean, as you see it actually happening in front of you, you may notice where the effect ends. You can see on this, when you click on the show mask, you can see where it's going onto the actual sky. But after a few minutes, when you look back at it, you won't be able to see it. Okay, so let's zoom back out to fit. What I'm going to do, I'm going to hide this bottom bit so the picture looks a bit bigger, and this side bit, and this top bit. There we go, that's nice and big now, isn't it? Right, so I fancy doing it as a black and white. So in Lightroom we go to this panel here, click on B and W, and there we go, that's black and white. Now if we go to HSL and click on this little fella here. Oh, hang on, sorry, no, wrong thing there. We're in black and white. We click on this little fella here. We can brighten things and darken things. So if we go to the sky, click on the sky, move our mouse up, it'll brighten it. If we pull it down again, it'll darken it a little bit. So I'm going to try and just click on a few things like this rock here, see, bringing a bit of detail out helps. Or just taking it down, and maybe these little bits of lichen. So I think having a little bit of detail on the rock's quite nice, isn't it? Okay, happy with that. Let's add a vignette. So that's in effects. And in effects we have these sliders here. There's a new one called dehaze. I'll just show you what that does. This will add more detail into the sky. If you go too far it gets very, very angry looking. But you can add a little bit more detail. It tries to reduce haze in photos, so if you've got a misty field it'll get rid of that. If you go the other way with it, it'll make it all look very wishy-washy and foggy. But maybe just add 10, 20 or something like that. You can see we've got a little bit more of the sky looking angry. Just reduce that a bit. But the thing I was looking for really was a vignette to give us this really dark, brooding look. Yeah, I like that. But the eagle-eyed of you will have noticed we've got this extra halo from earlier where we reduced the clarity. So let's go and the great thing about Lightroom is nothing is permanent that you do. So if you made a bit of a boo-boo with your brush, you can just go and click on it and then delete it. So that's gone now. And what you could do is just go around with maybe a thinner brush or a smaller brush just to reduce that. A little bit. Nah, I think it's always going to, look at that, cause a bit of a problem. So all we're doing there is reducing the clarity, but that has a bigger impact on how it looks. Maybe just down by 20 or something like that instead. So, and that. No, it's still creating those halos. So maybe just do it in the bits where it actually really stands out, where these little bright bits are. There, yeah, I think that's a better way of doing it. Oops, not there though. Okay, so we've now got ourselves what was a flat scene into a very dramatic sort of print. Now, finally, if you want to, you can have a play with this panel called split toning. So if you want to make it into a really cool, chilling kind of scene, you can either add blues to the sky, which will be the highlights. So you click on the box and split toning, and then using your little eye popper, you can add blue. I mean, you can make the sky green if you want to go a bit crazy. Any way you go with this eye popper, you can create different colours. I mean, you could fake a sunset, I suppose. Sunsets are a bit like maybe that, not quite that colour, are they? Something like that. But for this one, because I'm wanting quite a bleak look, I think a little bit of maybe cyan or blue. And notice how low I'm keeping the saturation. That's at 18%. Because I think if you overtone things, it can start looking a little bit too fake. There we go. And you can also add another colour to the shadows if you wanted to. So all the dark areas, if you wanted to make those really blue or slightly pink. Blue and yellow often works. So. And the other thing to look at is a balance between the two. So here, because it's quite a dark picture, it's mainly picking up the dark tone, which is yellow. But if you move the balance to the right, notice how we get yellow's only affecting these dark areas now, and the blue's more prevalent. So if we move it quite a long way, so it's just a little bit yellow on these rocks and these vignetted corners. But if you don't like the shadows, all you need to do is just drag it to the bottom and it's gone. Anyway, so there's a few ideas. Let's just have a see what we started with. So if I right click on the picture to create virtual copy, so we've got two copies of the same thing, and then Control Shift and R to reset. So that's before and that's after. So there you go, even with a very dull shot you can drag something out of it. I'd probably go into Photoshop now and maybe just tidy up a few things, like there's an extra dust spot here and there, look, you can see one there. But I hope that helps. Cheers.